if I hadn't been pushed into the situation, would I have done it?
Do you think that's helped you empathise, though, with the small businesses that you're working with?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm up for it every day because I'd be lying.
No, but just get it out there and polish it later.
You haven't got a job, have you, Mum? I'm like, excuse me, I have got a job. Yeah. I work for myself, thank you very much. I'm actually really poor compared to how much I used to earn.
Yeah.
But I feel richer in life. Yes. The importance of thinking time and doing time.
Coffee with a Female Founder is where we have honest conversations about everyday business with the women behind it. I'm Amy, your host and founder of Course Studio, a marketing and business consultancy, and The Female Founder, a community-driven learning platform. Each episode will chat over a coffee with a different female founder, diving into their challenges, wins, lessons learned, and the advice they wish they had when starting out. The coffee is delivered to us courtesy of vexcoffee.com, which is the UK's freshest coffee discovery club. Every month, they expertly handpick 2 small independent coffee roasters for you to explore. They've been kind enough to give our listeners 25% off your first box using the code FEMALEFOUNDER or using the link in the show notes. Today on Coffee with a Female Founder, I am joined by Roxy Lawton, a business coach and mentor who helps founders, startups and SMEs. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm very, very happy to have you here. So you've worked with many, many founders. What has inspired you to step into the world of business?
Ooh, good question. If I'm completely honest, it was something that I'd toyed with for quite a while. But the comfort of a salary, nice pension, good annual leave, meant that there was never a right time. But earlier this year, I was in a scenario where it was the right time. I had finished a role at another organisation, and basically someone rang me up who I knew, and they were like, Roxy, do you fancy doing this project for us? Yeah. So I was like, yeah, okay. And really, it's kind of just evolved from there. So I think to some degree, if I hadn't been pushed into the situation, would I have done it? Maybe. I don't know if I would have been. So I think it's one of those, if I'd not been pushed, I don't know whether I would have found the right time to do it. So
that's incredible.
It's just evolved, and I've gone through a bit of a journey in this first year of kind of understanding my kind of value, what I can bring, and trying to form kind of a proposition, I suppose, to a variety of clients. So yeah, it's been a real journey this first year of kind of trading.
Love that, and I can't wait to hear more. But let's start at the very beginning. What has your career trajectory been like to get you to this point?
So I fell into my career is probably the honest response, because I did religion and theology as an undergraduate degree. But in my summer holidays, there was what was back in the day a learning and skills council. So it was a government kind of department around skills, upskilling. And I ended up getting a summer job, which then led to my first role out of university. I got a permanent role, different part of the country, but because I had that experience. And it's kind of evolved from there. So I've always kind of not necessarily worked for government departments, but I've always worked for organisations that are either delivering kind of national, local strategy on skills. So that was kind of first half of my career, working with a lot of small businesses, upskilling. I ended up having a role, did a lot in the construction sector, worked in the nuclear skills side for a while. So it's kind of, I've moved around quite a bit with those kind of roles. But fundamentally, it's also been where the funding has kind of gone to a degree. I then ended up working at Man Met in the Centre for Enterprise, and that's where I suppose there was a bit of a shift. So more entrepreneurially focused, enterprise, start-up, scale-up. So I had an academic role. I led a couple of our funded projects. You design and deliver those projects. So as much as I was a project manager, I also kind of designed the programme. I also did a bit of teaching and learning. So I had a teaching load, so I worked with students as well. So that kind of nearly decade of experience really helped me kind of understand, I suppose, a lot of the theory, because there's a lot of academic theory, but how is it applied? But then understanding, I suppose, the ecosystem. So I did a big project called the Cyber Foundry, which Man Met led, and I was the lead for that. And and worked a lot in the kind of tech and digital space, although I'm a non-techie. So I always feel like I need to say that. And it's just really evolved from there. And you kind of realise what you enjoy doing. And then I kind of got a leadership role in the centre. And then did my MBA, because I don't like to sit on my feet very still. And I think then I got headhunted, and then I had a role at Info Group as their kind of one of their directors over there. So heading up one of the divisions. So there's always been a thread. Fundamentally, it's working with small businesses. So it could be a business at any stage of that kind of life cycle. But I think it's seeing the impact that kind of you can have, even if it's just a pinprick. Or being that kind of connector. So it's brought me a lot of joy. But it's challenging, I think, kind of working in that space. It's it's a whole mix of different things aligning, but I love it. I really do love it. So.
Has there been any small businesses that you can think of that has like really inspired you now? Like when you're starting up your own business now, have you gone back throughout your years and gone, I really liked what they did, I'm going to try and replicate that, or I'm going to use that as inspiration?
There's probably not, because what I do is quite different. But I think it's been that journey with some of the kind of startups and the founders, and some people have been great at, like, you've helped them start the business, and then every new client that they get, they're like, Roxy, just wanted to let you know I've got this client, I'm working with them now, or thanks for the introduction, I've managed to get in with them. So it's really nice just to see that journey. And then there are other people who've been on programmes that I've been involved in, and actually, funny enough, it's somebody who does a networking event, and then I've been now, so they've been on one of my programmes, and then I've started to go to their networking event. So it's kind of, there's a lot of synergy, although I suppose different kind of, we operate in different spaces, but how small, I suppose, the ecosystem is, and you kind of bump into people. But I think, it's given me a lot of food for thought, and we'll probably touch on this. It's the kind of practicing what you preach, which is a lot easier said than done.
So now that you're on the other side, kind of, you're still working with obviously small businesses, but now that you're running your own small business, is there anything that's like really shocked you that you didn't expect?
I think not. I think more my own kind of, from my own kind of personal journey. And I think just understanding my skills, because I think when you've been in large teams or you're leading a team, you kind of rely on the team. And then it's like when it's just on your shoulders, you feel a bit exposed, and it's like, do I really have this to bring? Is this really my expertise? So it's helped me validate that and go, no, this is exactly what I bring. I am an expert, and being able to comfortably say those words. But also, I think in terms of the shocks, I think learning to grow a bit of thicker skin. So like the amount of proposals, and people kind of ask me to, put a proposal in, can you put some costings in for this? And I'm like getting all giddy and excited, thinking, yay. And then appreciating that not everything's good and not taking it personally. So I think for me, it's those kind of, not shocks, but it's about my journey and learning kind of how things land, and just the reality, and not overthinking it and taking it too personally.
Do you think that's helped you empathise, though, with the small businesses that you're working with?
Absolutely. And I think it's not that I didn't have empathy before, but I think when you rely on bringing the money in to cover your bills, mortgage to pay, kids to feed, that kind of stuff, it does bring a different dynamic that maybe historically I didn't appreciate. And when you're counting on everything to try and land, to get your profile in and get that working on time, and it's a different scenario. So I think it's absolutely built an extra layer of empathy that maybe I hadn't appreciated. And just that constant determination and grit that you've got to, and you have highs and lows, don't you? I'm not saying I'm up for it every day, because I'd be lying.
No, of
but
course.
Knowing that every effort that I make is for my own benefit, it helps me. So I do get a drive. I get a bit of a fire in my belly.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about all the kind of founders, startups that you've worked with, are there similarities in the challenges that they face?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with a lot of startups and even founders, when they're looking to like diversify and kind of innovate and bring in new products and services, it's doing some of that kind of testing and validation, making sure, because you can have a great idea, but then it's understanding if you can commercialise that idea. Does somebody see that as a problem? And you take a pain away, and it's something that they're willing to pay for, and doing that analysis. So I think there's definitely things around that and trying to understand who's your target audience, like how, what is the opportunity here, and really doing that validation and analysis. I think it's just basic things as well, like your processes. You're doing everything, aren't you? You're drumming up your business and doing your business development. You do your own marketing, you're doing your own finances, you do the doing. So I think there's a lot of just keeping momentum going. I think it's just some of the basic things like your cash flow. So there's, depending on what you're trying to do. But I think the benefit I've got is that I know all the tools. But it is easier said than done, because I think I did spend a lot of time initially procrastinating, getting in my head, sitting at my desk, not really doing a lot, thinking, oh, can I do this? And kind of self-doubt. And I think I probably had a moment over the summer where I was just a little bit like, no, come on, Rox. Like, you do know this stuff. You've built traction from like, no, I've not had a plan. I've not been working on doing this in the background for like 6 months. It's been a cold, right, I'm going to do this and start. And I think sometimes just I'm very hard on myself and recognising the wins, but making sure I implement all the things that I kind of talk about, work up with businesses, using those models to scrutinise my own practice.
It's really difficult, isn't it? When you're on your own, you're doing everything. You think that you don't need systems because you're kind of just doing it on your own. You've got no one to hold yourself accountable to. You've got no one to ask you any questions, no one to check your work. So it's really tough to keep going and keep doing, like, the systems help obviously because it helps with productivity, but it's really difficult to keep pushing and keep implementing that strategy. Is there any specific tools that you use in your own practice?
I mean, I'll use the word AI because it is because every time I deliver a couple of programs for Salford, University of Salford, their Centre for Sustainable Innovation, and it's AI is like the hot topic. It's everyone's talking about it. Everyone wants to understand it. Everyone wants to understand from a productivity perspective, and I think it's within that kind of process. So I probably don't fully utilise AI, but it's little things like you just said about being on your own. If I need to build a proposal and I'm having one of those moments where it's just not flowing, I'll just speak to Copilot and I get Copilot to help me build a proposal. So a lot of the time I'll vocalise what I want, but help it just to get the ball rolling. So it's kind of those kind of processes that I'll use where I'm dyslexic. So usually it would take me a long time. I would overthink it, get worried about writing something and how to. So just utilising those tools to create those efficiencies. I did a programme last month actually, and someone who works in the creative industries, they used an AI platform. And they tested it for the first time. And on the first day of this programme, I could see her face and she looked overwhelmed. But with guidance from the technical team and through the programme, on like the third session, they'd actually tried to put a proposal together. And what would usually take them a day took them half an hour.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And it's those kind of quick wins where you kind of go, no, you need to still scrutinise and sense check because it's not complete, but how it can just aid some of those processes. So I think that's the thing that I try to do. I'm quite regimented because I've worked on a lot of like government funded. I'm quite organised in terms of my file structure and the way I like, because it's just the way I've had to operate professionally. So I'm quite organised in that respect. But I think it's those kind of things. And and I think balancing out. So I could go to a lot of events, and it's those kind of things around how I would structure my working week and how I would advise people. But I think I'm mentoring a couple of businesses at the moment, and I'm never surprised because sometimes you're good at what you do as a business founder. You start up and you're so busy doing the doing. And I think those things that you want to do as part of that strategic plan just never end up making it to the kind of task list. Yeah. So even developing a process so that you can pass that on to colleagues and build the business so it frees you up. It's those kind of things where it's just getting those things in place. But it's not easy. But it's carving out that time to make sure. And, little things for me, I think initially I was going to a lot of networking events with people that I knew. And some of my client base, but actually for my other side of the business where I'm working with small businesses, I need to get to more networking events where other small businesses are. So I've had to kind of shift my approach a little bit and think about where my target audience is, how I get to them. So it's those kind of things that I've kind of done.
Yeah, exactly. It's working smart, really, isn't it? Not working hard and kind of chasing your tail and things like that. When you mentioned the building systems and processes, it's easy to shove that down to the bottom of the list. But realistically, if you spent a good hour or so on this, it might help you in the future to become a lot more productive and things. So absolutely, it makes sense to prioritise those kind of tasks and shift your focus, like you said, going to networking events with small businesses instead of just going to networking events for the sake of it and stuff like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. And it's just that little bit of, and I think it's the importance of thinking time and doing time. And actually, I went to something, and it's probably something that you're aware of, but having a not to do list. And I was like, I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm not going to sit at my desk and do all the things that actually are not productive. Equally, like if things aren't flowing, just stopping. Where I usually punish myself and because I'm a bit of a finisher completer, I'll crack on and it actually sometimes I need to just step away,
100%,
have a walk, take 5 and then go back to it, and then so I think just like you say, working a bit smarter rather than just being a little bit more forceful with myself. It's like no. Just think about the situation. If I'm not being productive, just stop.
Yeah. I also think it's important to kind of get to know yourself as well. Like, especially with you working in kind of big structures and having a team and things, now to being on your own, you've got to relearn who you are and how you work because you're doing it so differently. Yeah. Is there anything that has kind of, I guess, not surprised you, but you've learned new about yourself?
I think it's just all the little things. So more on the finance side, because in the past I've always had a finance officer or a finance team, and it's like, oh, can you set up that PO or can you do the invoicing? And so it's doing all of that stuff yourself and just remembering to keep on top of my finances. And so I have built in a bit of a system to just make sure that as soon as confirming when I can invoice. Yeah. Because I think as well, I touched on the cash flow. A lot of people's terms is 30 days, and that's 30 days once you've done the job. So actually, for you to then have that money in the bank account, so it's just trying to negotiate. I think I've got better at negotiating when can I bill. Yeah. So am I doing it beforehand? Yeah. Can I do it on the first, especially if I'm delivering a workshop. So I do a prep day and then I might have 3 days of delivery. I'll bill as soon as I know that workshop's going ahead. Yeah. That first day. So then I'm not, even if it's a week or 2 weeks, at least that just helps from a cash flow perspective. So it's those kind of practices. Yeah. And then, with the marketing, I have definitely not mastered it, but just telling a story, I suppose. I've also been on a bit of a health kick because I've lost 3 stone this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I didn't realise I knew I'd put weight on, but it was my habits. Yeah. I refer to maybe my perimenopause, but I'm in the heights of that, anxiety, just wanting to be a better version of myself and just feel happy and healthier. So all that kind of has come together, and I talk a lot about that. So my LinkedIn posts talk about making changes because fundamentally I'm not obviously selling kind of personal training sessions, but business mentoring is around just having that accountability, having that critical friend, somebody that can just present it and guide you, because it feels really onerous when you say I want to grow the business and I've got a succession plan and in 15 years I want to sell the business. There's a lot of milestones to get to that point, and just being able to take it back and break it down into kind of different chunks of activities and like what are the immediate things that we need to work on right now, because actually the state of the business, not that it's, but certain things cannot continue as they are. Let's focus on those kind of quick wins. Then let's look at the kind of bigger strategy and resourcing and structure and some of the kind of things like that. So, yeah.
That's so cool. I respect that massively, that you talk a lot about your kind of personal journey, because I think, so I've just recently come out of employment and gone full-time on my own, whatever you want to call it. And that shift from kind of being kind of separate from your work and being able to come home and forget about it, to then literally it's your entire life.
Yes.
So you do really have to work on other parts of yourself, and you got to figure out how you emotionally are and capable of being a business owner. And there's so many different moving parts to it that you don't even realise. So working on your personal self, so then you're able to be a good business owner and vice versa. And it all has to work really, really well together. So,
it does. And, it's finding whatever that thing is for you. You know, it's not, you don't have to be, I'm not saying everyone has to be mega fit and go to a PT, but it's finding that balance. Like I definitely historically like leaned on alcohol. It was like, you know, my go-to, and I realised like it's not serving me. Just cut back. Like I did have a period where I just didn't drink. I'm having the odd drink now. You know, I'm not going to say that that's not the case, but it's being more measured and, you know, understanding the impact. And, you know, I don't want to wake up with anxiety, or I don't want a really poor night's sleep because alcohol is not my friend and it doesn't aid your sleep. So it's those kind of things where you go, no, I'm going to look after myself. And I think you do ultimately become a better version because you're in a better place mentally. And then I think you can focus and you've got more clarity, where I think if you're not feeling well, and I mean both physically and mentally, it does create and hinder you to some degree. So I think, you know, God, I'm not saying I am, you know, swimming in perfect, but I think it really helped. It's helped me through this year to feel like physically strong, but mentally strong too.
Yeah, so. I love that. So would you say that your kind of fitness is your escape to coping?
Yeah, I think, that, and just I think I sound like, but just making sure I get my walks in and just doing things that are good for you and wholesome, whatever that brings you, you know, whatever joy like you get from a certain thing, but just making sure that you do that. And I mean, for me, it's been being more present at home and with my kids. And my son is 7, my daughter's 12. So just being more present. And, you know, after when I pick my son up, I'm not rushing back for a meeting. I mean, I might need to do some work, but it's on my terms. I set the parameters. I can choose who I want to work with, where I want to work, what I can go to. And I'm really enjoying that kind of autonomy. So I'm
interested because I decided to go on my own because I realised that if I want to have children, I can't do the job that I was doing. I was working stupid amounts of hours. It was so stressful. So I decided to do this because I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to, because I'm going to have kids, right? So I'm interested to know how that shift has been for you, because presuming you already had kids when you made the change, how has that been?
I mean, I think it's a roller coaster, I think, in terms of trying to say, because my kids sometimes say, you haven't got a job, have you, Mum? I'm like, excuse me, I have got a job. I work for myself, thank you very much. I think it's just choosing what's important. And I say to everybody, I'm actually really poor compared to how much I used to earn, but I feel richer in life. And it's what you place value on.
Absolutely.
And I think I probably have been the happiest and more content. And I think as I'm getting older, I probably did chase the money. And, you know, I have a house that costs me a lot of money, but I think there's just a shift in what's important to me. So it's those little things. And both my kids have special educational needs. Being able to spend a little bit of time with them and not having somebody on my shoulder. I can work, you know, even if I still need to do something, I can do it in the evening. No one's kind of clocking me in and clocking me out and concerned about when I'm doing. As long as I deliver for my clients, when I work and how I work is up to me. So just that ability to make those decisions. It's my son's going on a school, they're going to watch The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, and it's like, I rang up the office to say, do you need me? And they're like, absolutely. And it's like, yeah, because I can now.
You can do that now.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can volunteer myself to go and help out.
Yeah.
I do, I do a kind of other kind of voluntary pieces of work. So I sit on the advisory board for digital for Trafford and Stockport College Group.
Yeah.
I'm an ambassador for Innovate Here. So it's those things that I'm passionate about giving back and supporting young people and people in general through the work that I do. But in those kind of voluntary capacities, I'm not having to ask anybody, is it all right if I start a bit later? It's like, no, what, this is important to me. I want to do it. I want to share my story. So I think the ability to just go, this fits. I'm going to get involved.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think a lot of people who start a business do it because they want more time, but realistically, you probably spent more time doing your business than working in employment. But it is that flexibility piece that you don't have to answer to anyone and you can choose what you do. And I think that that's so important. Regardless of how much effort and pressure and time it takes, you still have the choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask anyone for 2 weeks off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that flex has been great and I've enjoyed that. And I think maybe never say never, but I think, whether I could then work for somebody else, I'm not sure. I don't know whether when you've had that freedom,
going back to
I think then where you're accountable and, we want you on site so many days and it's like, I've had, the complete freedom to do as I wish and work with people I want to. You're not constrained to like, no, actually these partners, we need to align with them. And that, where sometimes I think as I've got older as well, like my moral compass and if like my values and how I want to conduct myself and those that I want to work with as well. And that's really quite important to me. And I think you can be conflicted sometimes when you work somewhere because you don't really have the ability to say no.
No,
do you know what I mean? It's like, no, that's our client. You need to work with them. So I think, there's definitely those elements of it as well that maybe aren't obvious, but especially if you hold those things true to kind of how you want to be known and your reputation, it's they're quite important as well.
They really are. So going back to the founders that you work with, I want to know when you bring on a new client, a small business or a founder, where do you begin? What's the first thing that you do?
So I think with the kind of business mentoring, it's really just understanding kind of what the drivers are. So is it that they're fundamentally, I think most people are looking to grow their business, but what does growth mean to them?
Yes.
So is that their like turnover? Is it the scaling? Is it growth so that they can kind of have that succession plan and, sell the business or hand over to family and relatives? So it's just really understanding what's the driver.
Yes.
Is it the day-to-day? Is it something bigger and more strategic? And then it is using a lot of the academic tools. So I'm a member of the Association of Business Mentors and I did a course over summer actually because I felt like I needed to. And when we did it, I was like, these are all the tools that I use because I've delivered workshops on them. So it's like your business model canvas, just helping people frame what they're doing. Because I think, it can get very noisy in our heads and everything. You're like pulling at all these different strings. But I think sometimes just getting something down to help formulate what that plan is, what the priorities are, what's the current state of the business. Because you might, sometimes when you use the business model canvas, it's quite a visual tool. And it's a good old tool that business schools love. And a lot of people use it. But you can kind of miss things if sometimes it's all in your head or it's on a Word document. There could be elements of the business that if you're trying to expand or develop a new service, you're a bit blindsided by. So I tend to use that as a tool. So, with a couple of people that I'm working with, and it just helps them bring that clarity and highlight maybe some assumptions or areas they've not considered. It's like, right, you've kind of overlooked this, but hang on, there's a bit of an issue here. You need to consider that, whether it's like you need to actually leverage on a partnership that you've got, or how do you monopolise what's already in existence here? So it helps kind of frame what is needed and kind of then what they can utilise if they are looking to kind of deliver a new service, or even like the different revenue streams. I've worked with somebody who's set up and they're doing interior design, and it's like all the different things they're trying to do. And it's like you need to bring in your different revenue streams. Like you need that steady income. Yeah. And I've done that a little bit myself, where I was doing a lot of workshop delivery, consultancy, but it's a bit sporadic, and I need that. I need consistent income. So that's why the business mentoring thing was like, actually, I need to start doing this. So it's all those kind of things. It's just understanding the starting point, but I think it's the accountability bit. And we've touched on it several times, but I think it's being on someone's shoulder, because whether it's somebody in any situation just asking you if you've done something or where you've got to, it does create action. Yeah, definitely. You know, and so it's that kind of just, but also empathising. I think I always steer people away from going too big with their ambitions, because I know, and this is maybe my personal preference, everyone likes to feel like they're succeeding and you're winning. So if you set yourself something that is too, you know, it needs a lot of kind of resource, capability, money, well, you're not going to deliver it in our next, you know, session. But look at how you break that down. Is it like creating a process? Yeah. Is it that you need to clarify what the strategy is, and everyone's understanding your vision, purpose, and brand, and you can do a bit of an analysis and get people to feed in. So it's just breaking it down so that they're really achievable. And it's like, you know, I did a session with somebody actually on Friday, and it was all the things over the past few months. And I was like, wow, everything that we said you were going to do, you've done it. Yeah. You should be really, really proud of yourself. You've made some significant changes, resourcing, bringing people in, taking your load off to another senior member of staff. These are not easy things to do when you're busy doing the doing. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's kind of carving that time out. So, yeah, all those kind of things, really.
Amazing. So I've worked with small businesses on various different parts of my career. And one of the things that I've noticed is that strategy seems to be a very difficult thing to comprehend, to either write one or even to actually put it into action. So are there any kind of tips around that?
So I think, strategy is a term I think that people use, and with maybe different meaning.
Yes.
And for me, it's what are the drivers for the business? What is your kind of end game? Yeah. And I'm not talking about KPIs or turnover or that kind of stuff. They're some of the enablers of how you do that. Okay. But it's really understanding. So like, what is the business strategy? And if you haven't got one, what you're trying to do? And so it's like the vision is part of that, the purpose and your brand. So like, you know, does everyone understand? So if you're working in a small business, does everybody within that small business understand kind of what the strategy is? And it, you know, it even for kind of individuals as well, it's kind of understanding what's the plan, what are you trying to achieve, where do you want to be, and how do you align that? So kind of thinking about your brand. But I think also there's elements of doing some analysis and validating. So I think understanding, you know, if we're going to deliver X, Y, Z, how are we going to do that? Are there any external factors that impact what we're trying to do? You know, is there any like new legislation? We've got budget announcements you know, is there anything to how I operate my business that's going to impact that? Are there any competitors that I need to understand there's a lot of analysis that needs to go into that. And I think with a strategy, it doesn't necessarily need to be all singing and all dancing. Okay. It needs to be something that you understand, that is easy to communicate. But then equally, you know, I work with a lot of small businesses, people understanding, and I know I need this. I need to know what part I play in that strategy. So having the ability to feed into it, because I think, you know, whatever level you're at, and even if, you know, there's only 3 of you in the business, understanding, or 5 of you, if you're a micro business, for example, understanding the part that you play within that strategy, being able to feed into it, because everybody within those different layers has insight that can be really valuable. not a top-down approach.
Yeah.
I really advocate for that.
Yeah,
Not a top-down approach. And I referenced it before, a business I'm working with at the moment, the vision, purpose and brand, they did an active, they were like, I don't really know what it is. And I was like, well, there you go. Like, you're a senior leader and you can't articulate that. Yeah. So how do the rest of your colleagues know? And if it's just the kind of senior management, how do they communicate that? And, like often people say, oh, doing a strategy day, and they'll feed everybody's input.
Yes.
And then nothing comes out of it. Okay. So it's about that consistency, communication, having that plan, milestones, and being able to kind of report on where you are against it, bad or good, but then also communicate that. So whether that's to your customers, to employees, to yourself, if it's just yourself. Yeah. But just kind of celebrating those wins. But if things need to reorientate, reviewing that and having a look at where that needs to flex, really.
Yeah. So have you noticed what separates founders from being successful to being kind of stuck and not really moving with their strategies?
Yeah, I think it's realising your skill set. I think is a key thing, because I think most people either have a frustration, see a problem, have a skill, a passion, and want to drive change. But I think it's acknowledging, as we've referred to quite a few times, that you're not going to be a master at everything. Because you can't be, and we've all got our strengths and our kind of skill sets, and there's areas that probably are not our skill set. So I think it's being open to understanding kind of, not those flaws, but where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and potentially kind of building in that support. So I'm not necessarily saying scale up. I know whenever I say this to some really early, and I always say like outsource stuff. If like you've not, marketing and social media is not your expertise, you hate it, but you've got to do it. It's where your audience are. Then pay someone else to do it. When you can, pay somebody else to do it, because the amount of time that you will probably waste and do it terribly, you might as well outsource, and you can start 100%. Small and find somebody who's trusted, who understands kind of your brand and what you're trying to do. So it's those kind of things, equally like get a virtual assistant. If you find like you're not very organised, let people bring in that support so that you can then do the stuff that you're good at. But I think it's also, validating some of that stuff. So really understanding whether this is stuff that you can commercialise. And there's been lots of businesses, and I won't name any businesses because it'd be a bit rude, but you think it's a wild, crazy idea and that it doesn't have legs when you hear it initially. But actually, some of those businesses have done very, very well for themselves. So I think it's just the approach that you need to do that analysis. It's not about when you're designing and developing something, just doing that. You've got to, it's that kind of continually getting that insight, because a product has a life cycle. Of course. And how do you kind of keep that either... How do you then look at developing new products, enhancing what you've got, getting that insight from customers, making sure it's relevant? So it's that continuous kind of cycle with all of that stuff to make sure it's still relevant. But I think as founders, it is about pushing yourself out your comfort zone. Yeah. You've got to do things that, I've worked with quite a few people recently, and they are very technically savvy. And then you kind of say to them, go and speak to people and go and network, and they're like, and it can feel cringe, but I think if you create barriers, then you're gonna, and equally it's like, I need a website, I need this. I don't have a website. I think you think you've got to be all shiny, all singing, all dancing, and sometimes it hinders what you're trying to do. And it's like, what you're trying to deliver doesn't require you to have a website. So just start and build it in the background. Don't put it off and then put this big like milestone and having all of this stuff in place before you start to do this specific service. Just do it. Do your testing, your validation. Just go for it. Because then things might change and adapt and build them as you go along. So I think it's all those kind of things, really. Yeah.
It's so funny because that's such a common theme that all the guests that I've had on, that's kind of something similar that they've all said, is that just get it out there and polish it later. And I think a lot of founders, even myself, I've been working on a business for 8 months and it's not out yet. And I just need to just get it out and just finish it off later. And I think one of my first guests, she said, in the very, very early stages of your business is the time where you can make the most mistakes. So you have the less amount of eyes on you as you'll ever have in business. So change the font if you want to change the font. Just get something out there and test it, get feedback and change it. No one's really going to care that much.
And it's like almost that innovation process. Treat your business as like you're doing an innovation process. Just go test, validate, get your feedback, iterate, test. And, that's because otherwise you're kind of waiting to have this unicorn.
Yeah.
And actually, are you ever going to get there if you can completely holding off? So sometimes, as much as I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but you need to do some testing and validation.
Of course.
But are you ever going to be 100% happy and perfect?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So you do need to just go out there and sometimes just do it.
Yeah.
Test it. Get some insight. Get some feedback. And then review it. I'm doing a little bit the same. I'm going to start doing some group coaching for female founders. And I've been trying to get it on a few WhatsApp groups with other and I just was like, right, ladies, can I just kind of get a sense of, would you want one-on-one or would this be appealing? And I'm kind of exploring, developing a bit of a hybrid kind of coaching. So there's a bit of building that kind of network as well and trust and rapport. And everyone was like, group coaching. I'm like, right, thank you. Because you need to test some of your assumptions. And, then obviously the next thing's like pricing, how will that structure would work. But yeah, I do think sometimes you just have to do it, review it.
And figure it out.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just forever waiting for the perfect moment. And also you sometimes miss the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned before that you were on the advisory board at Stockport College, Trafford
and Stockport College.
Trafford and Stockport College. So how do you see education and enterprise working together to basically the new generation of founders? How do you see that working?
So, I did teaching and learning when I was at ManMet. I think it's a really interesting one because I do think in the UK we if you say you're an entrepreneur, it's a bit of a dirty word.
Yeah.
No one goes I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder,
especially for females.
Yeah, and I think encouraging that skill set because a lot of people kind of are driven, aren't they, to employment? Yeah, because it's the comfort of it, but actually, there's a lot of people with great ideas who have that entrepreneurial kind of skill set, spirit. Yeah. So I think more in that kind of understanding how to start a business, talking about entrepreneurship a little bit more. I think in a lot of the work that I've done, a lot of it is around building the capability. So it could be adoption of new tech. Yeah. With a lot of small businesses, you build that capability, but they don't have the skills. And so for me, kind of the work that I do and kind of advising, it's around bridging that gap. Cool. So linking industry to kind of curriculum, making sure it's relevant, getting kind of our next generation to understand what are the skills, especially if you look at digital and tech, it's a growing sector. It's a key kind of enabler. Cybersecurity, for example, the kind of pipeline of talent that they need in the Northwest, because you've got GCHQ, Cyberforce over in Lancashire. Understanding actually that there are roles for young people and for people that maybe have come from an element of diversity, underrepresented groups. Yeah. I've touched on the kind of SEND things, that neurodivergent skill set. Yeah. GCHQ want that because that different thinking, looking at patterns, observation, they want that diversity in their workforce. So trying to advocate for that and kind of facilitate and support it is really, because you don't know what you don't know. No. And I think I've been privy to understanding a lot of the ecosystem and what's out there because of the work I do. But if I didn't, I wouldn't know. So I'm quite passionate about making sure that people know what's available and that people have access to it and the opportunity to it. So, I love what I do there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even just, showing them that there's a different option, because I think, I was ingrained that the standard was go to school, college and then uni, and then you go into an employment and you kind of stay in a career path. that's kind of how my life went. But there's so many other people that went apprenticeships, that went out on their own straight away.
Absolutely.
There's so many different options of how you go about your career and your life.
Definitely.
But they're not always shown or
and that's
celebrated.
Absolutely. And you've got degree apprenticeships now. So like, I did the traditional route, went to university, got my student debt. I think, I'm not saying university isn't, there's definitely kind of specific curriculum areas where you kind of, a pathway. But then equally, you've got your T levels, there's different opportunities where people can still get to the endpoint that they want to get to. But I suppose to some degree, slightly more tailored to different people's needs and preferences. And we've all got a different learning kind of approach and style. So for me, it's good that it isn't a one size fits all, and there's different ways of getting to that kind of landing point. So absolutely.
Cool. So you've given so many tips and advice throughout this entire podcast, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. And I ask the same questions to every person that I have sat there. To encapsulate everything that you know about business, working with small businesses.
Coffee with a Female Founder is hosted by me, Amy Cole. If you're interested in finding out more about the Female Founder, sign up to the waitlist at www.thefemalefounder.co.uk. The podcast is recorded and produced by QPod Productions in Oldham, Greater Manchester. For more information, visit kupod.co.uk. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you give us a like, share and follow. If you would like to feature as a guest, please email amy@thefemalefounder.co.uk.
Things that I'd written off because I was like, oh no. And I think, there's a lot of exploration and excitement when you're running your own business, especially in those first kind of years. Because you're still understanding your kind of propositions and, it might not be one niche area that you service. So I think, just go for it. And like you said earlier, especially in that very early stages, you're in a position where you can iterate.
Yeah, literally.
So it's all about learning, and you'll make tons of mistakes, but it is all learning.
Yeah, it's part of the journey. It's part of the fun.
Yeah,
it's a good story,
exactly.
Doesn't it?
Warts and all, definitely.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fabulous. Thanks. Honestly, that was so good. Yeah. Really good.
You sound like you. I'm going to finish my coffee. I was like.